All right, guys, we are live and recording. Tonight, I am going to mute you all out so we don't have any interruptions and we can focus all of our attention on the queen. So, Pam Sowder, you are one of the most inspirational, motivational, positive women I have ever come across in my life. No matter what is going on or what I come to you for, or anytime I'm just around you in a casual setting, you just have this way about you that you call people out in the most amazing way, and you turn every lesson into a blessing. You show us that there's a blessing in every single lesson that anyone can go through in their life. And so, going into 2021, our team has been here just about 2 years, and any journey in network marketing has ups, downs, highs, lows, and our team is no different. And we are so excited to gear up and to run into 2021 and just make it the best year we've ever had. Oh, I muted you. I'm sorry. Hold on. You're muted. Sorry. Why isn't it letting me unmute her? Ask to unmute. There we go. Whoopsies. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
All right, I am unmuted.
There we go.
First of all, darling, thank you for that introduction.
Well, anytime.
I think I know that I'm that way for a reason. Years ago, I read a wonderful book, and it was by Byron Katie. You all know I'm an avid reader, and she wrote a book called Loving What Is. Loving What Is. And it gives you such a different perspective on life. No matter what's going on, fall in love with it, because it is, that's what it is. You don't fight against it. It's now obviously that doesn't mean we just bow down and take whatever, but it's a great perspective on, okay, so that happened. Maybe I don't love it, but it happened, but I'm loving the fact that I can honor it and move away. I can take it and move on. I don't have to soak it in. I don't have to go down a rabbit hole with it. I don't have to take a class over how to get through it. I just can love what is happening. It's there. And I truly believe that everything is on purpose, and everything always, no matter what it is, it can take months to years to look back and say that was the best thing that ever happened. And so that's why I have that attitude. But I appreciate you saying that. So vision, you want vision?
Yes. So we have a couple questions for you. So it's up to you how you want to start. But I think the main thing. Okay. So I have 3 questions. One is, how can I stay out of my own way?
Oh, just do it. Bottom line, it's costing you time, money, and energy. And when you look at our minds and how they are so destructive, and then they're so productive as well. But most of us, unfortunately, come from the destructive side. And it is the side of that inner voice. I call it the inner bully. I write a whole chapter about it in my upcoming book, but it's called The Inner Bully. And man, did I wrestle her for a long time. And she'll come in with, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't know, that's not going to happen, you're not going to achieve that rank, you can't have that check, it's all for them, you don't know what you're doing. And gosh, we listen to that, and then we hear that voice, and then here comes another message to back it up, and then our actions stay in that place. So our actions are showing us that, hey, that probably at this moment, because I'm believing it, is true about me. And so I realized early on that if I wanted to achieve success, especially in this industry, because this industry, unfortunately, and fortunately, it is an extremely lucrative opportunity, this industry in and of itself. And as we can see, most things in life, that are not the norm get very, very much criticized, very much, oh, that must be a scam. Oh, that can't be true. And so I had to battle that as well, being new to the industry when I first started, and then, and not listening to that, not listening to my family, not listening to my friends, and staying in close proximity to those that had been in the business for decades. That was really, I think that's the reason I have been in the business for decades, is I got with people that were very persistent and consistent in what they were doing. They were true leaders in the industry, and I asked them to mentor me. I was very serious. I took it after 6 months of playing to a full-on career. And I know when I started treating it like a true business, everything changed for me. My check changed, my attitude changed. And so these thoughts are ever present. They come in and they go out every time we want to achieve the next rank, every time we want to double or triple our check. And oh my gosh, this is probably the biggest thing that I've ever learned is looking back on those moments in my life where my check was not where I wanted it to be. It just wasn't. And instead, I had such a good mentor. I wish he was still alive because I talk about him all the time, but he was so truthful. He said, you've got to look within. It's not on the outside. You've got to look within. It's within you. There is a battle going on within you that you want this, but you are here. It will not come down and pull you up. You have got to rise to it. And so I sat in some spaces sometimes for years battling that. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I increase my check? And I'm so thankful that I did the work, the inner work, because I went from making very little to making millions. And I wouldn't be here today. And somebody said something to me, well, I want to increase my check to 15,000. And I said, here's perspective. Some people that's not enough to live off in a week for some people. We have to put this in perspective. I'm not belittling it by any means, but for some people, they spend that daily. So how do we get to that point where we want to be able to spend that daily? Well, I can tell you, they're not thinking what you're thinking. And that's the difference. And their actions aren't the same actions that you're taking, because when you elevate to a certain money mindset, a certain weight mindset, a certain career mindset, when you elevate to that, your check will rise with you. And then, he taught me about being persistent. He taught me about being consistent. He taught me about staying in. And I always say, if you'll just stay in long enough to learn the necessary skills and don't look outside, look within, you can own it. We're proving that. We have people that have come in less than 2 years and are rising to the top. So it's not the outside, it is the inside. And so these are the battles that I personally have gone through. This is why I can coach on it. This is why after a few minutes of conversation, I can say to somebody, are you ready to do something about it? We don't want to waste any more time. And typically they'll say, yes, I'm exhausted. Sometimes they still rattle on about all the problems. They're not going to hear me. I'm going to let them keep going. Come back when you're ready, and then we can have this conversation again. All right, a message popped up. How did you do that? How did you make the change? Oh my gosh, I dove into personal development. I stayed away from the naysayers. I didn't follow the path of the quitters and the whiners and the complainers. I followed the path of the winners and the doers. A great biblical passage is be a doer of the word. Be a doer of the word. And, a lot of us can talk a big game, but we don't play it. And so a doer of the word is you do what you say you're going to do. If you say, I'm showing up at 11 o'clock, you're there at 10:55. If you say, I'll call you back in 2 days, you're calling back in 2 days. So I became a professional in this industry. And how I did it is I made that decision. This is my career. This is a profession, and I'm going to learn from the best. And the best are right here with us right now. You know, I'm looking at a solid team that can do whatever they choose to do. So we have got to get out of our own way. And that is an inside job. That's being truthful. We are great liars to ourselves. We will say, oh, I'm working my ass off. Really? Let me see what you're doing. How much time are you wasting? I just coached somebody and she said, I'm working all day. I don't even have time for my children. And I said, all right, so give me an honest answer. How many hours a day do you feel like you're working? And so she gave me that. And then I said, okay, so how many days a week is that? And she gave me that. And I said, all right, let's multiply that by 52 because there's 52 weeks in the year. Now let's play this out and see how much you're worth an hour. And it came out to about $210 an hour that where she wanted her check to be, And I said, okay, so every hour that you're messing around on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, TikTok, going down that rabbit hole, it's costing you $210. And so if you can't tell me you're working all the time with the check that you have, and if you are, then you need to dig in and find out, what am I saying? How am I saying it? You need to work on those necessary skills. The skill sets need to be ramped up. And so I was always studying the market. If something didn't work for me, I didn't stay there long. I tweaked it. I figured it out. I'm like, why isn't this working? And, you know, I used to word vomit on everyone. I used to tell them everything first meeting. I thought they want the same things that I did, and I figured out they didn't. And I got so that I could hardly say a word. I just talked about them. I asked them questions. I let them do all the talking. And before I knew it, my team was exploding because I cared about them and what they wanted instead of word vomiting all the things that I wanted, which they could care less. They didn't want to make me money. They didn't want to build my dream house. They didn't want for me to buy through their efforts, my dream car. And so when we flipped that switch, wow, my team exploded after that.
That's amazing. That and so inspiring. And I think, you know, one of the topics we talked about, we all just kind of got off of a leadership Zoom, and you know, we talked about how there's no perfect company, but there's the perfect company for you. And every company goes through growth patterns, and every person goes through growth patterns. And, you know, we've all seen that image of the guy mining for diamonds, and he gives up when there's like an inch of wall left, and he turns around and he walks away. And so going into 2021, some of us know that there's some big things coming on December 29th, and we're not going to get into that. But what we want to ask you is, you know, your advice, being in the industry for so long, talking to those people that maybe give up before they get started, or those people that maybe have been here, you know, we've been here 2 years, that maybe are like, okay, well, I didn't like the way this worked, or I didn't like the way this worked, so I'm just going to go somewhere else. And talk about, you know, tell us about truly building long-term income, and how important that is to stay focused on the vision of where you're at. And, you know, knowing what's coming on December 29th. They don't know what's coming, but you know what's coming. Just how big that's going to be for everybody.
Well, if you just look at the leadership stage, you know, you look at the Joel Stephanie Dunn, you look at the Melody McFarland, you look at the Denise Walsh, you look at Christy Christensen, who's been with us for a while. You look at that, you know, Ashley Sinclair going on 9 years, at being consistently at every leadership event, always on stage. That didn't happen in the beginning for them. I remember Stephanie Dunn being in the back of the room as a Ruby. I remember Melody just getting started. I remember the first time Melody met somebody on her team that she didn't know their name. Her team was so small. And so I look at that, and most people that came to It Works were not networkers. Melody and Blair were probably the only one that had been in the industry before. And most were very young, very fresh, really had to figure it out. And so, no matter where you are in that space, there is so much room available there. I mean, I don't even really believe at 20 years we built that big leadership team. Most companies takes about that long. When we first got started, we almost went out of business several times because the startup typically does. I think 90 some percent fail as startups. And that's not just in our industry, that's across the globe in any industry. So for us to stay in and figure that out was instrumental. And then, of course, we get to go to the DSN and we get to hang with all the leadership and the different companies. And we know the insides and the out. And there's nowhere else I would rather be, in all honesty. I mean, there's some good leadership out there, but there's not so good leadership as well. And so when I think about vision, I think about Mark always casting this big vision, always hungry for that, always wanting to change more lives, always wanting to grow a company. I want somebody that's hungry wants to grow a company. Because in order for that growth to happen, he's got to be creative. He's got to be innovative. He has to care. He has to put systems in place. He has to put the people in place. So he's got we talked this morning, he's got some really good ideas of not just ideas, he's implementing them. These are strategies that he's implementing. He wants growth for this company. He wants tremendous growth. There are companies out there that are doing some really looks like some really great things, and a lot of times they're called the darlings of the industry, but it's in a moment. We've been in that. Now we're coming back into a second phase of that, and I truly believe that we're putting some things in place for that you guys, especially, you're building an international team that you're absolutely going to love. You're going to see some major differences there. So I just feel in no way would I even think about this not being a viable opportunity. My own daughter, every day I talk to her about business, and she's raising her grandchildren through this company, through this business. And that's important for me and for her and her future as well. So Brittany, you've become great friends with Brittany. Brandy, you've become, I always say that to you.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
I know. I don't know why. You look more like a Brittany.
I have not called her Brittany yet.
He's the only one that has not.
Mike, if you had, I can get away with it. You cannot. So, y'all become great friends. I mean, that means a lot to her. So I want you to not worry or think about the company. I want you to cast your own vision. We are there for you. The compensation plan is there for you. The products are there for you. So cast your own vision and walk in that in 2021. What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your team? And that's what I always did when I was working in my first company. I didn't know the owner. I didn't know anybody at the top other than the top distributors. They didn't even let you near them, much less would they have ever been on a Zoom. Forget it. There was no way you would try to walk towards him, and he would actually turn his back and walk away from you. I mean, that's what I thought. Well, that's leadership. If I ever had a company, I would never act like that. And so Mark also knew him, was a part of that. And so we changed the culture of going away from that into the culture that we wanted. So we're very transparent. We're very approachable. I think that that's vitally important in today's world. And then think about this. I just saw where Lululemon which we all know who they are. They, people love their yoga pants and all their gear. They met their 2023 sales goals this year because of COVID, because everybody's staying at home. We need to look at that and yell from the rooftops that we have an opportunity for anyone. Most of our distributors have never done this before. We've got free platforms to use as far as social media to market. They're embracing it. When you have leaders that are bringing 20, 50, 100 distributors a month off of a platform that is as silly as TikTok, and these people are working, that tells me there is an opportunity and they have never heard of us. So we need to get very loud about what we want. We need to get very loud about what the world wants, and we're global. So it's not only the US. This is a global pandemic. And there needs to be global help. And if you're not gifting that out to the world, then you need to take a hard look at yourself, and you need to decide that I'm going to gift this opportunity to the world, and I'm going to give back in this respect. I'm going to bring people on board. I'm going to treat them with respect. I'm going to honor the opportunity, and I'm going to give them the platform to make money where they're starving. More children are starving than ever before. More people are out of work than ever before. So we need to give back to the world and let them know that we have an opportunity for them. And I feel profoundly affected by that. And because I think that's why I'm so successful. I know what we have our hands on. And it's not about being quiet right now. It's about being very loud and very vocal.
Sorry, I was muting someone out there. Gosh, Pam, that's so good. And that's, what you said, that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this company is the environment. Am I frozen?
I don't see you. I don't know what I see. I see a refrigerator.
The camera switched around. What is happening here? We're experiencing technical difficulties. That was my refrigerator, y'all. Welcome to my house. One of the things that we Mike's over here laughing at me, that we absolutely love about this company, because you know what? We've been, not the same company you were in, Pam, but we've been in that company with that owner that you literally, you guys, you had to qualify to get any attention from this owner. And Mark, when you're at conference, Mark comes out in the lobby of the Marriott with hundreds of people swarming him to give hugs and high fives, and the culture here, just with the one team, one mission. And, like you said, I have gotten close with your daughter, and I've gotten close with a lot of the other leaders here. And one thing that you don't see often, but you see here, is collaboration, not competition. And the leaders here, the sidelines here, truly cheer you on and help you out, and they want to see you succeed. There's room at the table for all of us. So the environment that you guys have created is top notch. And, Mike has been in the industry a long time, and that's one thing he speaks very highly of here, is that he's never seen the perfect storm that we have here. He's never seen exactly what we have here. And so, kudos to you on you're a big, big, big part of that. And we're so thankful for that. You're welcome. So, okay, to close this out, I want to point out and ask Pam to share a story. I want to point out, well, Tracy had a question. Maybe we'll end with the question after this. All right. Actually, let's just go to the question real quick. All right. Tracy said, Mrs. Pam, if you had to start all over again and you knew no one, what's the first thing you would do to grow your business from scratch?
Well, I mean, it's just like anyone else would today. Just like if I came in right now, I would, let's say that I'm typical. I have 100 friends on Facebook, and maybe 1,000 on Instagram, whatever. I'm not real big on any social platform. We can't get outside the house, so we know we need to build social. So I would, every day, I would go live drinking my skinny brew. Every day, I'm drinking my collagen. I'm a product of the product. I'm consistently, during my workout, I'm drinking Hydrate. So I would really get on board with sharing results, sharing just drinking the coffee and what it tastes like, just living in the dream of what it's going to do for me, living in the dream of what the collagen is going to do for me. Because, all right, I'm new. I don't have a result yet, but yet I can drink something and have a taste. I can drink something and talk about it has happened for other people. I can show those before and afters of other people. I would get on every day and I would be posting about what I'm going for, what I'm looking for this business to do for me, that I found the holy grail, so to speak. I have no idea if I'm going to make $1, but I'm living in the dream of that dollar. Everybody loves the story of Cinderella and the rags to riches. You're right now, I'm living in the rags of that. Right now, I'm living in the dream of the prince. I'm living in the dream of the castle. This is the best part. This is the best time. It's the biggest part of the story. It's more pages than the ending. And so what we want to do is we want to create that Cinderella story. And our Cinderfella, if Tracy. And so we want to just go all in, make that decision and show up every day, and then start making contacts with all the people that you've ever met in your life, and be that person that's on fire for those dreams. Whether they say yes or not is irrelevant. You want to be the first one to make contact. And I realized that early on. Most said no to me, the vast majority. But I knew that if I asked, and then I came back and asked again, that it was a certain amount in my check that would get their attention at some point. It could be $200 a month for some. It could be $500 a month for some. I honestly, I built this network and my other network out of complete strangers. I didn't know Brandy and Mike. I look at almost everybody I put in quit, but look what we built. Look at the hundreds of thousands that have come into this organization. So no one was a stranger to me. I talk about it wherever I go. I mean, we're still going out. We're still living life. So we can still shove our phone in someone's face and say, look at this before and after. Look at this product that I'm marketing. Now, here's the cool thing about right now. Everyone's doing something from home. It's not abnormal. It's not scammy. Everyone wants to be an influencer. So why don't you become the best brand influencer that you can possibly be for your own company? All that It Works asks you to do is gather customers and sponsor distributors. We take care of everything else. And we want you to stay compliant. That's really the three things that we expect out of you. So it's no different than anyone starting anything new. Now I think about when I first got started, we didn't have a Blitz card. We only had the telephone. I didn't have a cell phone. So I had to pick up that heavy phone and start calling people. And then when I ran into people, I just told them what I was doing. And most of them looked at me cross-eyed because, again, I was word vomiting on them. I was telling them too much and I was using all the wrong words. However, I got their attention. They could sense when someone is on fire for what they're doing, for their potential, for the possibilities, people will start to pay attention. They'll want to know, what are you so darn excited about? They can feel a difference in you. And you got to get thick skin. You just have to have it. And then I knew when to speak and when not to. And I think that was vitally important. So Tracy, I would just go all in. I would be posting daily. I'd be going live. I think Amawa, she recruits so many people in a world that is not accustomed to women doing anything. I mean, she's had death threats against her family, against herself, and she's changing her world because of It Works. And she goes live every single day. There's not a day that she misses. And she has one phone setting there live on Instagram and one phone live and her computer live on Facebook. And that's how she's built a network of no one, of zero, of nada. So that's what I would do. Yeah.
I love that. And a few things you said led into what I was going to say before this. You talked about rag to riches and building your story and being excited. And I talked about that on a Zoom the other night with my team about building, when you just join or you're a Ruby and while you're on your way to making your story, they're like, I don't have a story to share and I don't have quite the excitement. And I want to point out to everybody, because we look at you as the queen bee. You're Pam Sowder, and you live in this beautiful house on the bay. And I would be lying if I said the first time we were there, we didn't get on Zillow on the way home and look it up, So, but we have to remember, you have not always been Pam Sowder, the queen bee. You used to be just like Brandy Bright, the mom at home with her kids. And so just to close it out, I'd like you to share just a little bit of that. You built up your story, and one of the most inspirational things that you've shared with me about your story was the $1 million story, walking into that house and the $1 million. And so I just wanted you to touch on that and maybe share that story with them tonight, because that's what we all strive. That's why we're here, to be able to one day have a life like, the Pam Sowders or the Marwas or the Cami, you know what I mean? To be able to create that legacy for our families.
Well, Dave and I's first home, his grandmother died a month before we got married. So his dad let us rent that house for $100 a month. Yeah, it was just a tiny, tiny place. Then our first home, we got a government loan. It was $49,000. So we could get a government subsidized loan for that. The second house, the actual second house that we owned was in the 70s. The third house that we bought was $157,000, and we lived there 19 years. And I started, and it works. I found the product, the wrap, at that home. And we stayed in that home. We lived in that home until we moved here. So we sold that house for $300,000 in the worst possible economy. That was when everything went to nothing, 2011. You couldn't get rid of a house. Nobody was buying one. Fortunately, we lived in a hospital environment where all these doctors were coming in. That's really all that's in Roanoke, Virginia. And so a doctor came in and finally he was moving there and he had to have a home. So we sold it. So we came down here and we started looking at homes, and I'm like, oh, right before we sold that, we were coming down looking at homes, deciding if this is the area we wanted to live in. The home office was going to be up in Bradenton. And so I'm a small town girl. I grew up in a very small, wonderful town called Little Roanoke, Virginia. And in that was a little area called Cave Spring. I went to Cave Spring High School. Dave and I met when I was 16. He was 17 in high school. So we're high school sweethearts. We dated 6.5 years. After we got out of college, we got married. Our first child came 10 years after we started dating. So we had full 10 years together. And then we had Kay. And Dave was making $80,000 a year. And when I quit my job, he was making 40. I was making like 43. I was actually making a little bit more than him. So we were making about 80,000. I quit my job selling IBM computers to come home and stay with the kids. So for 7 years, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And then I got introduced to this industry. I was looking for a job. I mean, Dave kept saying we need more money, and we did. We needed more money. The kids were 7 and 10. They were in all these activities. We just couldn't afford it. So I got introduced to network marketing, and immediately I seized the opportunity. That doesn't mean I started out fast. I actually did nothing for 6 solid months. I was such in a state of fear of what people would think. I was really overthinking everything. I was embarrassed, actually. And I don't know why that embarrassment was there, but it was. It was like, what, my dad is, why don't you go back to teaching? I didn't want to be a teacher, even though I had a degree in it. I substitute taught one day and said, this is not for me. There is something for me. And so the industry and I connected right away. We connected. And like I said earlier, after I started, that 6 months later, after I started, within that second 6 months, I decided to make it a career, and very quickly rose through the ranks because I treated it like a business. That was it. That was the difference between me and everyone else. They were playing in it, wishing in it, wanting in it, but they weren't doing it. They didn't take it to that next level. And so when we discovered this product, we're bringing we started It Works Global in 2001. We have a brand new product to market that nobody has ever heard of, ever seen. There is nothing, nowhere to even show it. There's no Facebook, there's nothing. They didn't even have a website. We didn't even have a before and after picture. I'm out there, the first one, going from door to door basically with I might as well been selling the Model T back when they were still driving a horse. I mean, riding a horse. It was that unheard of. And so it took months and years to figure out how to talk about it and then to build the systems behind it. And so it was tough. It took us 5 years to build our first diamond. That's how slow. It was like molasses. Doug wants to pull the cord. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep going. I wasn't making any money. Dave was so mad. Mark and Dave didn't even look at each other for years because Mark knew Dave was probably going to hit him because his wife's working all the time and she's not making any money. I mean, men are very basic, black and white, money, no money. That's it. There's nothing in the middle. Either you're making it or you're not. So I just stuck with it. I just kept going. I felt such an honor. I felt like God had gifted me with that product, and it was my opportunity to bring it to market. So I felt responsible for it. I loved Luis. I loved everything about him. I felt like we were, Mark cast that vision, and I just fell into it. And I'm like, we're doing this. And so we did it. And so when you decide, all right, Mark's living in Michigan with his family, I'm in Virginia with mine. Let's bring these two centers together. Let's move 25 families to Florida. Florida offered us some incentives to come. It just made sense. We couldn't get anybody to come to Michigan. It was always too darn cold and too snowy. So we wanted somewhere with some ambiance, some energy, some palm trees, some sunshine all the time. And so we came. And so Dave and I rented this a little tiny place, $2,000 a month when we moved down here. And we started looking at houses, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought $1 million would buy you something, because back home, there was not a house that cost that much. And so that's kind of our budget. And we were on a roll then. This is 2011. So we're starting to do really, really well. We never spent money. Dave was still working till the day we moved down here. He was driving a company car. I was still driving the same car. We didn't owe a dime on our house. We were completely debt free. We owed nothing on credit cards. We banked everything because we were used to living on the fruits of our labor and not the excess. And we've got put two kids through college. And so they were debt free coming out of college. We were debt free from that experience, and we wanted to have a full on experience. And so we came down here, we had saved everything. So we were able to purchase that. And I'll never forget going in these homes and saying, Dave, I need another $1 million, flat out. That's it. Put my head down. The last house we'd gone in, he said, look, we're in the neighborhood. This is out of reach, but it's open house. Let's go in. I walked through the front door of that home and I went, oh my gosh, first thing out of my mouth, is it furnished? Does it come furnished? And they said, yes, it does. Because I loved everything about it. Dave did too. We walked through that house like we owned it. And so we went back to work. I worked. A year later, I had it. We called the real estate agent. We said, is that house still for sale? Absolutely. Because nobody was buying. It was the worst economic times. That house almost went to half. And we bought it and we lived there for 2 years. And then we bought our current home and we paid cash and still own the other one for 2 years. So we're paying for 2 houses. I'm telling you, that's how fast it grows once it starts. Once it starts, it's an avalanche. And Dave's never asked me about the money since. And I didn't know a man could smile that big when he retired from his job. And so when you talk about, I feel like Cinderella, really, I do, but I know the hardships too. I know the putting the head down. I know telling the story over and over and over again. I know hurt feelings. I know people would look at me and act like I was, think I was crazy. And I probably was. I mean, think about anybody that's ever done anything's half crazy because nobody else has done it before. And so no one in my family or Dave's was raised that you could make millions. Quite the opposite. We were raised, get a job, work 30 years and retire. And you can't go anywhere once you retire because there's no money. That's how we were raised. But that was middle America. That was the way it is. It's different today. You can't survive on that today. You have to do something different. So for us, this industry has blessed us and will bless generations of our family. But you don't have to be an owner to experience what I'm talking about. I would have done this with this opportunity had I been a distributor. Because think about, I would be a distributor for 20 years. Think about the income, when you think about the Duns, 10 years, because I have that work ethic, making up to 250 a month. Yeah, you can afford the $1 million house. You absolutely can. So, I always say, get over yourself. I'm very quick to make a response to you because I've been in the downside of life. I've been in the struggle. I've been in waking up in the middle of the night, just wanting more, just dreaming bigger, sweating over it, just wondering at times, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get there? And then before you know it, you're not asking that question anymore. See, when I stopped asking, when can I get there? And I started walking in, I'm there. Before I ever was, no, I'm there. You can't say anything to me at this point. You can't take me out if you tried. And I've often said, if everyone left, I'd build it again. There's no way that you can tell me this is not a viable opportunity. It's that strong. It truly is. So I've had a lot of ups and downs, but I look at it as growth, character growth, growing in character, growing in power, growing in strength, growing in wisdom. Because if something happens in your organization, in your business, you have to step outside of yourself. You have to not look at it personal. You have to look at it from a CEO perspective and say, okay, this happened. Now, let me find out if there's anything I could have done differently. Let me put my big girl panties on and ask myself that question. Could I have been a better leader? Could I have been better at any aspect of leadership? And if you can honestly say, no, I think I did a pretty effective job, then that's not about you. That's about them. That's all there is. No, nothing else needs to be said about that. It's just, let's move forward. A big thing that I've learned as well, focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. Focus on where you're going, not where you've been. Where you've been is already boring to you. It's already boring. You've already been there. You've done that. Like people, when people say, I'm rebuilding, I'm building, I'm maintaining. Maintaining is the most boring thing in the world. Why would you want to maintain your check? You want to grow your check. You want to go to that next rank, and then go to the next rank, and then open up a 2.0 and take that all the way to ambassador. What other company is going to give you that opportunity? And then what we have coming on the 29th, even more. So there's nothing here stopping you. There's everything here saying move forward, get it done. But you have to make that decision. That is an internal decision, and it's an inside job. And boy, when I need to, I'll take a deep dive into Jim Rohn. He sets my butt straight. I will read books that inspire me, that get me up off that 30-minute read that I have in the morning, and not wait. I can't wait to get started. And telling your story over and over, it's as though you're speaking life back into you. If you're telling the story of, I don't have enough, I'm not growing fast enough, my check is not you are feeding that back into you. You're saying, especially if you're saying it out loud, you're going to get more of that. I don't want that. So be aware. If there's anything that I could tell you, be very aware of what you're thinking. Actually, the best exercise I ever did was, for 48 hours, I wrote down my thoughts. For 48 hours, I wrote down my thoughts. And I looked at them and I asked myself, is this what I want? Is that because that thoughts are your creative power? That's what God gave us. Those thoughts, our imagination, our words. That is our creative power. And so if I'm looking at that, I'm reading that, I'm horrified at what I wrote down. And then I asked, is that true about me? Statements that I had made, that is not true about me. That is someone else's belief that I believed about me. Or if I'm truly believing that about me, no, I will no longer accept that about me. This is where I'm going. It's a really honest evaluation, and it teaches us, if you look at that, you can pretty much say, that's my life. That's my life. Well, in order to change that life, we've got to change that inner dialogue, and we've got to change those powerful words that we've been given, and speak life. So when we tell the story of where we're going over and over every single day, I'm making my coffee, I'm dreaming about my future beach house, I'm making my coffee, I'm dreaming about cutting up that credit card. Then one day you go live and you cut up that freaking credit card, and somebody's been watching you day after day, and they're going, she finally cut up that card. Or guess what? On a Tuesday, I dream of taking my children to the park. And then on a Tuesday comes, a random Tuesday, and you have your children and you're at the park, and somebody's sitting in an office that they hate, and they see she finally did that. See, it's the small things that are big in people's lives. And I knew that just paying for diapers was helpful. I knew that paying that electric bill was instrumental. I knew that paying for getting a new car, because the car that they're in is scary. The seat belts aren't working. It breaks down. It needs new tires. So just talking about your future dream live feeds it back into you. It stirs it up into you. It's more important for you than it is anyone else. Even if you're speaking and two people are on your live, I used to do Show Me the Monies and nobody was on. We couldn't even tell. We'd get the report and I said, well, dang, not one person was on. Not one person. And I was good that night. I showed up, and see, I'm still doing them. That's the thing. There's the difference. That's why I live here and most people don't. And I'm telling you, there's no other difference than that right there. It's not because I'm any better. It's one thing. I stayed the course. That was the biggest thing. And I learned and I figured it out and I gained wisdom. That's it. Gosh, amazing.
Wow, that was good. Well, the show me the money with no one on your live is the TikTok video that didn't go viral that you were sure was the one that was going to go viral.
And they
And we
don't
keep doing it.
try too hard. Get on there and be silly. People want silly. They want real Brandy. You know, they want the real you. And they just, that's how I do everything that I've ever done. I'm like, how come I got so many likes? I was so good on this one. It was too perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so good. Well, we're going to wrap this up. I heard a quote recently. I actually shared on my Facebook today that goes along with what you said. And it's, stop asking God why something is happening to you and ask why it's happening for you.
Mm-hmm.
And look at, that's what I said when we open this up. Every lesson, there's a blessing in every lesson. I spy something sitting behind you that I think to end this, can you tell us, I know it's in pre-sale, can you tell us where we can pre-order that book and when the launch date is?
All right, so it's coming. I actually, they just sent me some because they just got printed. So they should be showing up any day, but especially after the first of the year at Amazon. So you'll be able to get it at all the retailers. But you know, it's really my first story, and I think it's important because it's to get people interested in the opportunity of network marketing. It's taken that the poor girl is not, she's poor in spirit. It's not just poor in money. She's poor in her thoughts and her dreams and spirit and the way she thinks about herself. And she transforms into the rich girl through all the wisdom and all the hurts and all the dreams that she has. And so she starts showing up for herself. And so it's that beginning story of, you know, Dave and I are in there a lot, and some of the things that we had to go through as a couple, and then the family, and then, you know, just learning the what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I think that that's vitally important, and timing, and then how to not get caught up in the negativity. And so there's chapters that I think are relatable to everyone. It's a really easy read. It seems real easy, but there's so much depth to it. I wanted it to be relatable to everyone. So I'm hoping that not only you, but I'm hoping it'll grow your business. I really do. I'm hoping that other people outside the industry will pick it up because of the title, and they'll want to look at it and they'll say, wow, this is an interesting industry, because there hasn't been a book from a female in our industry in a long time that is not a deep read. It's not trashing any other industry. It's if anything, it just speaks life into you. So that's why it's a little, it took me a lot to do this. It's a 2-year process. I'm like, I almost didn't put it out because you're like, oh my gosh, do I have the guts to do this? Yes, I said that. Yeah, but there it is. Yeah.
So even the queen doubts herself every now and then. But all right, it's called Rich Girl, Poor Girl. It's available pre-order on Amazon, and I think I saw it's available on Kindle as well.
It's Kindle, and Audible is being done right now. Ooh. So that'll be available too. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, I may just have to buy a few copies, and I do know where she lives. I may have to get a few signed, and maybe we'll do a couple giveaways. But
yeah, that's what we'll do. Absolutely. Yeah.
So to close this out, I am going to allow everybody to unmute themselves and just say bye on the way out. So I think I gave you guys all the permission to unmute, and just go ahead and let me switch to gallery and just go ahead and shout out bye, and thank you, Pam.
And Merry Christmas, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.